Last week, I decided to put my HX effects up for sale, which was a tough decision because I loved that thing and I used it for a long time. I made a video if you're interested in how I came to that decision. You can watch that right here. But I did get a good price for it. I traded it for a little cash and a Friedman IRX. The IRX is a hybrid of a real Friedman tube preamp and a digital model of a power amp. It was really a hot product for a moment in late 2023, but every product seems like it's the hot new product until the next hot new product comes 2 weeks later. I was interested in it from the start, but I didn't buy one because the last thing I need is another amp modeler. But I did want to try a Friedman product, and I've been interested in their brand for a while. I was even thinking about buying one of their less expensive combo amps, but I guess I don't have to now. I actually have a little bit of history with hybrid style guitar amps, which have been around for a long time as a way to solve the problem of solid state amps not sounding as good as tube amps. The reason is that transistors produce non-harmonic overtones. At least that's what some guy told me in Guitar Center 20 years ago. The amp behind me in the corner is an early attempt at a hybrid combo tube amp from the early 90s. It's a TubeWorks RT2100. I found it in my father-in-law's basement. There's a 2-channel tube preamp section paired with a pretty loud power amp. On paper, it sounds like a really good idea, but it's not my favorite. It's super dirty on the distortion channel, and it's a really smooth distortion, so probably would be better for metal, but it doesn't get the punchy kind of distortion sounds that I would like to use. It's actually been super useful as a clean power amp for amp modelers. Like, I plug all kinds of stuff into the receive of the effects loop, which is kind of ironic because the thing that's supposed to be the sauce of that amp is the part with the tubes in it. And that's the part that I don't use much. Later, like in the 2000s, we started seeing the opposite approach to the hybrid solution. So it would be digitally modeled preamp sections with some version of a tube power section. And I think they were more popular. Actually, my first decent guitar amp was an old Vox VT15. This is an old VT30 behind me. The preamp section on those units is a computer that's designed to mimic all the main types of vintage amps. And it has a tube power section consisting of just a single 12AX7 to give it a little tube feel and flavor. And it was good for its time, but the modeling is just not equivalent to what we have even in the past 10 years. Even back then, you could tell that the distortion sounds, when you turn it up, they were fun, but they wouldn't be a good enough quality to make real music if you could get something better. But I actually found a secret mod that you can use to make a Valvetronics amp sound as good or better than anything else you own. It's amazing on every setting, so comment below if you'd like that video. I've also owned a Fender Superchamp X2, which is the same concept except that it's got a more complete tube power section, and you can even switch off the computer and just run through the tube power section, which is cool, but I hated every sound that the modeler made, and I didn't love the tube power section enough to keep it. So at any rate, it was interesting to me that Friedman revived the old hybrid approach and even went back to the old tubes in the preamp thing, especially with the twist that they're supposedly adding in a digital model of a power section. So here's what I experienced plugging into the Friedman IRX for the first time. It felt awesome. There is a ton of discussion on the internet and before the internet of the responsiveness of tubes and the feel of tubes and how it's better than the fake feel of, digital modeling or solid state or whatever you're thinking about. And it was all over the IRX marketing, right? They were blowing that horn. It's not that it's not a thing. It really is a thing. I never had a personal theory on what exactly that was before, but I actually think it's nothing more than input lag. I think it takes a second for a computer to think about your input signal and decide what the output signal is going to be. And when you don't have a computer in between you and your sound, everything just happens in real time with your pick movements. It felt like a tube amp, but like half, which is exactly what you would expect because the thing is half a tube amp. It was also really easy to use. I mean, what you see is what you get. There's nothing to learn. It's as straightforward as it gets. This was also true of the Dream 65 pedal, but it's more true of the IRX. I don't even think you need to read the instruction manual on this thing. For instance, it took me about a year to really feel like I knew my way around the Dream 65 pedal. I kind of had to wrestle this thing to the ground. But I traded for this IRX this past Monday, and I'm already making a video about it. In fact, it was almost disappointing because the features and the user interface of the IRX is so simple and straightforward. It kind of wasn't much of an event to try it out. It just, boom, get my sounds and play my guitar. There's nothing to do with this thing except play your guitar. So that's what I did. I played my Les Paul the first time because that's really my baseline guitar. That's my 0 point that I compare everything to, and I was able to get my sounds immediately. And I loved those sounds. And I was even able to get my distortion sounds without a distortion pedal, just using the channel switching and the boost button. I could probably reinvent my main rig with just this and wet effects, but I really hit a brick wall when I tried to use my Strat. It's just a Squier Affinity that I upgraded to custom shop Fat 60s pickups, but when I tried to run it with the IRX, it's hard for me to get my sounds. It's hard for me to get a sound that I like at all. No matter what I do, I get this gurgling, piercing artifact thing, and I really, really hate it. I've tried to dial it out with the EQ, but it just seems to stay there no matter what. I can't even figure out if it's a highs thing or a bass thing. I can get cleans I like. But once the tubes distort at all, it just turns to garbage. Again, it reminded me of the Dream 65 pedal. I actually made a whole video about how the Dream 65 pedal would make wet fart sounds if I didn't dial it in right or if I used the wrong guitar. This isn't the same sound, but it's more like a broken buzzer going off in my ear. One thing I haven't tried is bypassing Friedman's power section tone model and then just going into a power amp or going into a more linear, like impulse response, maybe on my HX Stomp or something. That actually worked on the Dream pedal. So the sound quality of the IRX is hit or miss so far with me. With my Les Paul, I think I love this and it's awesome. And then with my Strat, I think I hate this and it sucks. But it's not uninteresting to me that I get these unpleasant burps and gurgles and artifacts on units that are supposed to be the most realistic, and I think are the more realistic of my modelers, or in this case, a hybrid. I talked about this several times in my Dream 65 series of videos, and I think if realism is what you care about most, a unit's capability to make bad sounds could be a badge of honor. It's also possible that I don't like the Friedman sound as much as I thought I would, or I don't like all of the Friedman sounds. Or maybe if I keep throwing myself at it the way I did with the Dream 65, I'll get the hang of it eventually, or I'll find my workarounds or learn its limitations. Comment below if you think I'm missing something. In the next video, I'll do a deep dive on the features, the user interface, what can be done once I plug the thing in via USB, and also how it stacks up against comparable modelers and, tone solutions that I have.